From licensed professionals actually greenlighting surgeries to cut up your body in pursuit of being who you quote unquote truly are, to a crazy man going up to a pastor in the middle of Sunday service and trying to shoot him. He ultimately gets tackled, but the state of the world is disgusting, to say the least. We're going to be covering all of these and a lot more on today's episode.
Facts over tracks, isn't that spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
Sadly, that's just the beginning of what we're going to be covering, and it's very sad. Starting with the Daily Wire article, we have meet the licensed therapist who green-lighted sex change operations in the name of, quote, allyship. Surgical referral letters are one of the few safeguards that stand between those suffering with gender dysphoria and life-altering operations that seek to change their sex. But ideological motivated therapists have set out to make these letters as easily available as possible, viewing their work as a form of political activism rather than a serious medical precaution. Now, of course, all of these doctors are woke professionals that graduated from the wokest universities to ever exist in America and are quote-unquote allies to the quote-unquote trans community, and they want to show their allyship by just providing anybody with these very surgeries to cut up themselves. It's a sad reality. It's a sad thing that what we have seen is people destroying their bodies, and then they're not able to go back to how they were because of the fact that they are now cut up and they are now having wounds that they can never replace inside of them. They have big giant mistakes that are forever on their body. It's not like a tattoo where you can easily get, or not easily, but painfully get the tattoo off. No, it's not like that at all. It's something that you cannot ever change inside of your body because of the fact that all of the surgeries that are needed to actually, fix the botched surgery that you got, it's not going to exist. It's not a thing anymore because once you destroy your let's just say the way you pee, then there's no way to actually get it fixed, and it's a sad thing. So that's why we need to prevent this from happening at the beginning. So then if you were to ever regret doing these things, you would not be able to, go further on that path of self-mutilation and self-harm. It's sad because, we have so much things to actually prevent people from committing suicide, from hurting themselves, from doing that. We have so many websites available. We have so many phone numbers that you can call that actually talk to you. We have so many things that actually help people that are suffering through other health problems. But with this specifically, we allow them to just do whatever the hell that they want in pursuit of being quote unquote their true self. And it's not a good thing whatsoever. It's really not. Being quote unquote who you were born as is just being you. Just be you. Be normal. That's what it is. So if you want to quote unquote be who you quote unquote were born as, then just don't leave things alone. Leave things alone because that's who you were born as. Who you are right now without any surgery, without any self-mutilation, without anything else is your true self. You changing yourself is changing yourself. It's not who you were born as, who you feel as you were. It's not that. It's you changing yourself. That's not who you are. So if anybody was to talk you out of it, there should be things available for that. So moving with this article, this ideological bent is not limited to individual professionals. Organizations exist with the express intent of making these letters as readily available as possible. The Gender Affirming Letter Access Project, the GALAP, opposes the requirement that people receive medical letters before undergoing sex change operations altogether, but has resolved to make these letters readily available before clinic practice shifts toward a more socially just model. GALAP, G-A-L-A-P, describes itself as a group of transgender, non-binary, and allied mental health and medical providers who advocate against a surgical letter requirement, putting mental health providers in a position of gatekeeping negatively impacts the client-provider relationship and leads to abuses of power. That abuse of power that you say happens is more of a reality check for these people. It's more of a reality check to actually make sure that you're going down a path that you actually will not regret, and not putting you down a path of surgery, even though you're not in the right state of mind because you have a mental health disorder. That's what the quote unquote gatekeeping is. So if you were to go to the doctor and say, well, doc, I think that you should prescribe me these medicines, and the doctor says, no, that's gatekeeping now. No, it's in your best interest why the doctor is making those decisions for you. It's just it's common sense. I don't know why these people regret or like to just say, oh no, these aren't happening, this is not happening, this is not happening. Yeah, it definitely is happening, and it's a sad reality of our world. Now, with that being said, we do have another article from the Daily Wire. We have a man tries to shoot a pastor during a sermon and then gets tackled. So, police in Pennsylvania said that a man tried to murder a pastor at a church in North Baddock on Sunday while he delivered a sermon to his congregation. Police said that 26-year-old Bernard Jr. Polite, not so polite, I should say, entered the Jesus Dwelling Place Church a little after 1 p.m. EST and attempted to shoot the pastor as he was giving his sermon. Polite pointed a firearm at the pastor, attempted to shoot, but the firearm failed to disengage. Okay, good thing. I mean, that's just God right there protecting the pastor. So, thank you, God. The statement said a congregation member took immediate action by grabbing onto Polite, the member of the pastor who was able to subdue and disarm Polite. Polite was held until troopers arrived. So this was on citizen's arrest, so that's good. The statement said that the charges were filed for attempted homicide. Well, no, not just that. Attempted homicide, assassination attempt, murdering in front of a lot of people. That's like 20 charges right there. So again, that's not going to prevent anybody from actually committing the crime, just adding another law in the book and another law in the book. It just doesn't make any sense. With all of these gun laws being passed, it's not fixing the problem. So how about we go back to a time where everybody had a gun and less crime happened? It just doesn't make any sense here. Pastor Glenn Germany was the target of an attempted shooting. He said, I'm thankful to God that I'm still here because he definitely pulled the trigger. He told social media that he had never seen a suspect before that day, but noticed that he was coming in and out of the building and made direct eye contact with him. Cool. I started to begin to preach, and all of a sudden, from my left hand eye, I saw him move back to the front of the church, and then sat up in the front corner of the church and smiled at me. Germany said, all of a sudden, I saw a gun pointing at me, and at that point, all I could try to do was run for my cover. He praised a member of his congregation who ran and tackled the suspect. He could have lost his life in that struggle, Germany said, but he sacrificed himself for everyone. He's the real hero. Okay, yes. So that guy that tackled this shooter, this disgusting human being right here, deserves to get the Medal of Honor from the city because he deserves applaud. He deserves to actually get recognized for his doings. He deserves to get recognized for doing what was right at that very moment, and that was tackling this low life scum that walked into the church and tried to kill a pastor. If anything, he needs to find God real quick, or else he's going to end up, well, I think he's already going to end up in hell. So, moving on to the next article, we actually have another Daily Wire article. We have University of Florida president blasts asinine entitlement of pro-Hamas protesters. Former United States Senator Ben Sasse, Republican, now the president of the University of Florida, slammed pro-Hamas demonstrators this week who have created chaos in college campuses across the United States and the weak leadership of the universities that have allowed this behavior to happen. Sasse's remarks come after the school released a statement early in the week revealing that the numerous arrests were made on campus because the school would not tolerate disorderly conduct that was in violation of the school's policies. Quote, higher education for years has faced a slow burning crisis of public trust, he wrote in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. Mob rule at some of the America's top pretentious universities in recent weeks have thrown gasoline on the fire. Pro-Hamas agitators have fought police, barricaded themselves in university buildings, shut down classes, forced graduation cancellations, and physically impeded Jewish students from attending lectures. Sasse said that the parents were right to be angered over the asinine entitlement of these activists and embarrassing the timidity of many college administrators. He said at the University of Florida, the message that the school wants to send out to parents and future employers of college students is that the adults are still in charge. To cherish the First Amendment rights of speech and assembly, we draw a hard line at unlawful action, he said. Speech isn't violence. Silence isn't violence. Violence is violence. Just as we have an obligation to protect speech, we have an obligation to keep our students safe. Throwing fists, storming buildings, vandalizing property, spitting on cops, and hijacking a university is not speech. And I completely agree with this. This is the exact approach. And oh my God, it's just such an amazing thing how Florida has become the example of how the United States should operate in every single aspect. In America, in Florida's universities, in Florida's government, in Florida's handling of how taxes should work, Florida's handling of how the weather should work. Everything about Florida should be the prime example of America. Even though we can't control the weather, sadly, I would like to copy Florida's weather and bring that over here where I live or throughout America. That would be excellent. If we had Florida's weather, yeah, we have some hurricanes and yeah, we have some devastation, but we have natural disasters everywhere you live. So it's just a crazy thing that in the summer, even if you were to be in Florida, maybe it rains for an hour. It would get cloudy, it would get humid, it would rain, and then it would not be humid anymore, and it would still be nice because then you can just go to the beach. In New England or places like that, all the way next to New York or Boston, stuff like that, it would be drowsy and rainy for like a week straight, and then you're like, oh, finally we can go to the beach. You have a 90-degree weather, and then boom, the next 3 days of that hot weather is raining. It's just disgusting. So Florida is a prime example in every single aspect. Even taxes, there is no income tax in Florida. That's great. That should be a thing because of the fact that we live in America and we should be able to keep more of our money. Now, of course, we're not able to keep more of our money if we're sending more money to governments overseas to actually just pay for their social security or having to pay for their people to not work, stuff like that. But supporting other countries abroad, we can cut that by like 50%, and we would still give them the support for their military that is actually needed. We can cut our government. We have so many people working for our government. It should not happen. No, we don't need so many people working for our government and institutions that are just there forever for no reason whatsoever. It's disgusting. No, cut most of our government, cut government spending, and then we don't need to pay as many taxes. It's just a common sense solution to a common sense problem. With that being said, we have the headlines of the week. So digging right into the headlines of the week, we actually have a Federalist article. We have, to confirm voters' United States citizenship, states could easily check DMV data. Now, this is a correct analysis because of the fact that you need to actually register through the DMV to actually, apply to vote. So yes, you need to apply to vote. Oh my God, this is like new information that a lot of people are receiving. Yes, you need to apply to vote. You can be denied to vote if your information does not match up to their system, but most of the time it does. So obviously you are just checkmarked and you're able to vote. But the thing is, when you enable to vote, when you enact to vote, start voting, and you first tell the state, listen, I would like to start voting in our elections, you send in all of your information to the state through an application process. Then they get back to you within a couple of weeks, and then they tell you exactly where you need to go to vote. You can enable to vote for a certain party, stuff like that. So again, we need to actually make sure that all of these people, once you are enabled to vote, enacted to vote, then you are actually secured when you actually cast your vote. So by doing that, you can just check your DMV records. So you can say, I'm so-and-so. You can check the DMV records and match up the face to the person that's actually taking the ballot. Or you can just ask for an ID. Whoa, it's an inconvenience that will, set you back 1 minute. What you would do is, this is the common sense solution here. You would give your ID. They would say, okay, hello, you're here to vote for both elections, the statewide elections and the citywide elections. And then you would just say yes. Then you would hand them your ID. They would scan it. And then a printout of your specific ballot would come out with your name entitled on the ballot itself. Then when you go and cast your vote, you don't even have to put your name on the ballot. It would just be connected to you. So let's just say when you actually first check in, they give you the ballot, then you need to actually cast your vote through the fax machine thing, the scanner thing that you put in because you need to actually go on the ballot with the number 2 pencil. I did this in the past. Once you actually cast your vote with the number 2 pencil, you actually have to go up to the printer and scan your ID. Once you scan your ID, it says your name right there, and then it matches up through the system. So now somebody in the future can't come in and say, I'm so-and-so, because so-and-so already voted, number 1. Number 2, we know that it was so-and-so because he has a license. So that's a common sense solution. We're in the 21st century. We need to start acting like we are. So the greatest border crisis in United States history grinds on, with an estimated 8 to 10 million illegal foreign nationals entering the country since Joe Biden became president in 2021 and stopped enforcing border security, as hundreds of thousands are offered federal benefits, asylum, or social security numbers for work permits. What are the chances that they will flow onto voter polls illegally ahead of the 2024 election? An accountant's answer might apply: highly likely, and it also depends. It is up to the states to remove ineligible voters from registration lists by going back to the root of the illegal registration, their departments of the motor vehicles, DMV, since it was enacted in 1993. The National Voter Registration Act, the NVRA, motor vehicle, has expanded voter registration by integrating it with driver license assurance. It also created a cascade of non-citizens flowing onto voter rolls. Many on the left claim it's illegal for non-citizens to register to vote and cast ballots. So that's that. When millions are opted into registration automatically in at least 44 states, even if they check no on their citizenship question, it is up to the states to check on their citizenship status. Of course, because of the fact that we can actually see this example with my mom particularly. She does not want to vote for the election. She wants to just stay out of politics altogether. But of course, we have our agreements on politics, stuff like that. But the thing is, she just wants to stay out of it. She's like, nah, I don't really want to vote. I don't really see the need of it. I know it's a losing battle. Anyway. She's like, no, I don't want to enable to vote because, additionally, I don't want to be called in for, what's it called? I don't want to be called in to be jury if I was to ever get jury duty. And I was saying, well, it's not that bad. And she was like, yeah, it is. Well, anyway, she was saying that she didn't want to do that. It is what it is. So when she first got her driver's license, she said, no, I do not want to vote. But then she got a letter saying that she was enabled to vote. So she can vote in this place right here. We can go into this location to cast our vote. So it just doesn't make sense to me why, if she was to say no, they were to say yes. She wanted to vote. So she already said no on her driver's license. And she never updated her location when we moved. So they still updated her location automatically and then said that you need to vote in this election right here, or this, not this election, but this location right here. So I don't know. They really, they do stuff automatically, even though you tell them not to. And then they wonder why we don't trust the election process. Well, but that's because you're accepting anybody that says that they want to vote without actually finding out if they're a legal citizen or not. It just doesn't make any sense here. Biden's push for register left-leaning voters. So since the Biden administration rolled out Executive Order 14,019, which commands political appointees and federal agencies to get into the business of registering voters at the taxpayer's expense, voter disenfranchisement concerns have skyrocketed among election security groups around the country. That's with good reason. Many states refuse to comply with Section 8 of the NVRA and revealed to the public their process of removing ineligible voters from their rolls. Pennsylvania admits to, quote, accidentally registering some 90,000 non-citizens via motor voter automated registrations. Pennsylvania legislators and civic groups are in litigation over the plan in asking the Supreme Court to review the constitutionality of the executive order over its apparent intent to target Democrat-leaning populations with registration materials pushed by political appointees whose job depends on who's in the White House. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs, have also been caught handing out registration materials to the flood of migrants when they are helping to enter the country illegally. Virginia's positive example. Virginia's election officials have confirmed that they are now adding a validation check against DMV's legal presence codes as part of the moderation program. The state launched after it exited the Constitutional Electronic Registration Information Center, the ERIC, in 2023. As the Federalist reported in March, the Multi-State Voter Roll Maintenance Partnership has been criticized for pushing expansive voter registration efforts, particularly a requirement that member states reach out to eligible but unregistered voters, EBUs, from its list compiled by ERIC. Okay, so now they're saying that if there is a person that is not enrolled to vote, you need to reach out to them and then actually get them to enroll to vote, even though they might be an illegal immigrant. That doesn't really make a lot of sense here. And obviously, they are trying to win the election in 2024 because of the fact that they lost in 2020. Or no, well, they won in 2020, I should say, but the Republicans lost in 2020. And now they want to make sure that it is the exact same thing in 2020, where so many people were enrolled to vote because everything was on not in person. So this was mail-in ballots. So many people voted because they didn't have to be in person. So they want to make sure that the popular vote, or the total number of voters, actually keeps going up and up and up and up, instead of going, to the point of 2016 where it was in person only. Unless it was like a military person and they really can't get to the ballot, then it's a completely different situation. But you need to be at the polling place on election day to be able to vote. No absentee voters, just because of the fact that you're being lazy and you want to have CNN glued to your face for the rest of the day. No, you need to get out of your couch. You need to go to the polling place and you need to cast your vote there. That's how we can do this thing. And you need to give them your ID too. Okay. So moving into the next article, we actually have a Federalist article. We have 10 lies Democrats tell about our elections and how to refute them. So, election integrity laws suppress voters. Now, under the guise of COVID, many states expanded in use of unsupervised mail-in voting, which I was just talking about, permanently changing the electoral landscape and how modern elections are conducted. With COVID-era lockdowns now in the rearview mirror, many Republican-controlled states have spent the past several years returning their election systems to pre-COVID practices and moving away from unsupervised methods. One of the more outrageous examples of these attacks came from President Joe Biden, who's grossly labeled a vegan 2021 Georgia election law as Jim Crow on steroids. Contrary to Democrats' smears, Georgia experienced record early voter turnout during the state's 2022 midterms. A poll conducted after the election also revealed that 0% of Black Georgia voters said that they had a poor experience voting. Number 2, the 2020 election was the most secure election in history. The claim from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the CISA, the nerve center of the federal government's censorship operations, is just as inaccurate today as it was issued nearly 4 years ago. From illegal election rule changes in Michigan and Pennsylvania to the unauthorized use of ballot drops in boxes in Wisconsin, the 2020 election was fraught with mischief and irregularities. And of course, when we say that, we need to actually make sure that this is not a thing that is going to happen again. So again, there's always people that vote in our elections that are not supposed to. So how are we going to stop that? Instead of just saying, well, that's just not fair and blah, 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 blah. How about we fix the problem itself? So we as Republicans need to use these very forces to actually win in 2024. Now, once we use it, so absentee voters, we need to use all of these things. Even though absentee voters or absentee voting should not be a thing, we need to win. So we need to use those things. We need to make sure that we use the absentee voters voting. We need to use mail-in voting. We need to do early voting. We need to make sure that people come in on the day too, that everybody that can possibly come. So with all of those 4 things said, we need to actually make sure that we're actually using these very things. And then on top of those 4 things that we are going to use, we need to make sure that people know who they're voting for, and we need to make sure that we actually educate people. So with all of those being said, once Republicans use the same exact tactics as Democrats, then it's just you versus them. So who has the most amount of people actually showing up to vote for them? So again, with all of these illegal immigrants coming into this country, we need to make sure that we actually win in the process, because if we win, then we can make these elections more secure. But we cannot make these elections more secure if we are not in the positions of power that we need to be to actually get the job done. It's very simple. It's very, very straightforward. And I don't know why a lot of Republicans are just rejecting the thought of actually using absentee voting or actually using early voting to actually win the election, but it needs to be done to actually win. It's a sad reality of the fact, but it needs to be done to win the election. And you need to win the election to pass your the standards of which you want to conduct yourself in the government of the United States. You need to get the job done. You need to fix the problems we have here in America, and you need to, most importantly, fix the interest rates in America, because we cannot be printing money like Uncle Sam has Uncle Sam has been doing in the last couple of years here. So with that being said, we're going to end off this episode here. I know that's a little bit of a shorter episode than normal, but the thing is, there's not that much news going on except for the May the 4th be with you little thing that the White House did, which I am not going to cover that because it's just cringy and it's just disgusting. Mark Hamill, you're cringy. You lost my respect forever. So with that being said, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, and I hope they have a great rest of your day. Bye.